Buying your first home isn't just about money. It's about fulfilling a dream, finding a sense of security and marking a major milestone in your life. While the home buying journey is exciting, it can also be overwhelming if you aren't fully prepared. But worry not, we are here to guide you every step of the way. Hi there, I am Nandita Khemka and you're watching Realty Returns powered by 99acres.com. Now, first-time buyers can often find themselves tangled in paperwork, they can get confused by complex loan jargon and overwhelmed by the tough choices they have. Well, on the show today, we help you navigate these challenges. We'll be joined by Suresh Sadagopan of Ladder7 Wealth Planners and Keval Valambhia, Chief Operating Officer of CREDAI-MCHI. But first, what are some of the key things that every first-time home buyer should keep in mind before signing on the dotted line? Take a look. Buying your first home is not just an emotional milestone. It's a major financial decision. With easier access to home loans, more Indians are taking the leap into home ownership. But smart financial planning remains critical. One of the first choices you'll face is whether to rent or buy. While renting seems easier on the wallet, long-term capital appreciation makes ownership a stronger bet in many markets today. According to data from ANAROCK, between 2021 and 2024, property prices across India's top 7 cities have risen faster than rental values, making home ownership a more rewarding long-term investment rather than renting in many micro markets. Clearly, owning a home can offer long-term financial benefits. And once you've decided between buying or renting, the next key question is, should you go for a brand new property or opt for a resale home? But before you start house hunting, check your financial foundation. You'll need a stable income, a healthy credit score, and savings for at least 20% down payment, plus registration and stamp duty. Besides financial readiness, it is important you always choose a RERA-registered project to safeguard against delays, cost escalations, and incomplete handovers. And if you want to avoid risks altogether, stick to ready-to-move or pre-approved projects. They may cost a bit more upfront, but save you the stress of paying both rent and EMI. So what should first-time home buyers keep in mind before taking the plunge into property ownership? Let's get on board our experts to shed light on that and also to share some valuable tips with us. Joining me in the studio is Keval Valambhia, Chief Operating Officer at CREDAI-MCHI, and Suresh Sadagopan, MD and Principal Officer at Ladder7 Wealth Planners. Well, he joins us on Zoom. First of all, Keval, thanks a lot for taking out time and coming to our studios. My first question to you is, there has been a shift post-pandemic. People are shifting more towards home buying rather than renting. What is the kind of, change in trend that you have witnessed, especially post-COVID? Because owning a home is both an emotional and a major financial milestone for people, right?
Absolutely, Nandita. So the thing is, pandemic changed a lot. They taught us a lot of things. We as developers, we understood that home is not only an ownership aspect. As you said, it is an aspirational aspect as well. During and very soon after the pandemic, there was a lot of shift into population in terms of migration. People opted to, go back to their home cities or, tier 2 cities to cut down the expenses in terms of living expenses or living cost as such. Also, there was a shift in terms of the demand of how a house was perceived. People wanted a home office within the home. Right? They wanted more of greeneries within the home. They wanted more of flexible spaces within the home. So a lot has changed. Yes, you are right. But the thing is, what we have learned is home is not only a home where you and your family lives. What we have understood is that people want to work from home as well, which was an alien concept so far. But now it has become a reality. Right? Most of the IT professionals and other allied industries, they have still this continued trend of working from home, and which means a dedicated do not disturb place is required within the house. So if you see the plans post pandemic, you will see that we developers have been kind of advertising the house where you have got a home own office, right? That was one thing. The second thing was that the space or the area which we perceived as a home. Even today in Mumbai, because space is a luxury here, you will find 300 square feet homes as well. But those homes are no more preferred, I would say, even by the Gen Z buyers, right? They want larger homes, right? So a lot of shifts, even the financing schemes for homes, they changed drastically. So pandemic was, yes, it was an unfortunate pandemic for all of us, but for the real estate and the housing sector, it brought in a lot of innovations. Developers were wary of going tech savvy. Now you see, I mean, you open up your website and you will see walkthroughs. You don't need to go to site to buy a home.
You can just see it with
Exactly,
a button.
exactly. So a lot of revolution has taken place since then. And as home buyers, people have understood that buying a home is not only an investment, right? People used to tell us that why would I not invest into a demat account than into a home? Well, the answer is here in front of you. You cannot live in your demat account, can
That
you?
big shift has happened, you saying that
Indeed.
people are leaning towards buying rather than renting.
Indeed.
Okay, Suresh, coming to you then, before stepping into the market, what are the absolute basics that a first-time buyer should assess, especially financially?
There is a lot of emotion attached to home buying. So a lot of people feel pressured into buying their first home. So that is something that we have seen as financial advisors. A lot of people are not really ready, and they end up buying a home in a place which is not exactly suited for them. So typically the pressure comes from parents, from the spouses, from the various family members and things like that. And they end up buying a home in a place which is not suitable. Not suitable in the sense that it may not have the area that they may want. It may not be in a desirable locality that they really want, or it may be very far from the place of work. And they end up buying in those kind of places. And we have seen also cases where after a point in time they give up that place and go near the place of work. So this kind of a thing. The other thing which also happens because of the same reason is that people also buy a property, may not be in the same city or town where they are working, but just so that they can get a home, they buy a place in some other city, some other town, because that is all that they can afford. And then late, I mean, because there is a thought that, I mean, you have to have a home somewhere. So if there is anything really wrong going on in life, you can always go back to that one place. So it's kind of a safe haven. So that is one thing. Now coming to the financial aspect, a lot of people, especially at the early stages of life, especially if they are the first time buyers, they are not really fully prepared for the buying decision. Most of the finance companies or the banks, they want at least 20% as an upfront payment. We have seen that many of the people do not have that amount also, and typically what ends up happening is they borrow from their parent, they borrow from, because they don't have enough, and they take a personal loan apart from various other sources, and then end up paying that 15, 20% or 25%, and rest of it they take as a loan. Now, coming to the other financial aspect is, a lot of people do not properly estimate, and the family members and everybody say that, okay, we will anyway get by. The most important thing is to go for a house. So they end up taking a house, going for a house, and they have a problem later on in terms of paying the EMI. So this is something that we have seen. So what I would say is that first and foremost is the house that you want to buy suitable for your needs, for your family needs. That is the first thing that we have to see. Do you have enough to put the money upfront, which is required as your contribution? The third thing is, as far as the EMI is concerned, is the EMI serviceable for you without interruption at a future point in time? I mean,
Sure.
this is a long-term thing. So on an ongoing basis, it is serviceable. So these very basic things we will have to look at before taking the buying decision.
Sure. So, can you break down how loan to income to loan ratios really work and how they help first-time buyers figure out what price bracket they should be aiming for?
Yeah, a lot of first-time buyers, I mean, it is not only a home, they have multiple aspirations and they have already gone for maybe a vehicle loan, maybe some other, I mean, people go for even white goods loan these days. And people also have a reasonably good lifestyle. Many of them have a good lifestyle, and there is a fair amount of money going there. And if they have children, again, education related thing is also there. So we will have to really look at what is the expense that they are having, not just I mean just the income. So we will have to look at how much is their income, how much is their expense, and how much is left aside, left over to take up further asset on which they will have to
Sure.
pay a loan. A typical amount which I would say, I mean, which works for most people is maybe 40, 45%, 50%. But for most people, when they take a loan, 40, 45%, 50% does not work, especially in the early parts of their career. And more often than not, they end up taking 65, 70% of the entire income that goes into the EMI. One small other aspect which I want to also talk about is that most of the people who go for a home, it is I mean, especially I'm talking about married people. I mean, there's the couple who is working, and the
Huh.
couple, the entire income, 70, 65, 70% goes into the loan. So one of the things which they will have to clearly understand is that if both the incomes are taken into account while calculating the EMI and for in terms of affordability of the home, then it is they have to understand that the other person, I mean,
Sure.
one person, if they want to, the lady of the house, if she wants to leave the job to raise a family, that becomes a huge constraint. I mean, we have seen that time and time again. So that is one more thing that people have to really realize when they are going for that first home.
Keval, coming to you, have you observed these trends that if somebody has taken a house which is far away from work, who does not have a work from home option? In that case, would you advise renting rather than taking a huge loan and buying a house?
Okay.
How do the dynamics work there?
Well, I mean, in cities like Mumbai, it is very difficult to have a home and then also rent a home if you want to, because EMI burdens are always there. So that is why, as Suresh rightly said, it is a very wise decision to hold for a second and decide the location of the house, right? It does not only focuses on your home to work distance. It also has to look into account your family aspirations in future. If you are going to have kids in future, so their schools and everything. So it's a wholesome kind of decision, and I don't think it is a wise decision to leave the home or rent it out and then rent yourself to somewhere else, because it's financially going to add up to the burden. Rather than that, while buying the home, you must step back, decide the location first, check your affordability for that location, and then decide.
Sure, but the costs that you have to incur to buy a home have also gone up, so to say. Example, the ready reckoner rate for Maharashtra has been hiked, right? In that sense, there has been a surge in property prices. But on the other hand, if you talk about rental yields, they haven't really grown as much as property prices. So how do you look at this conundrum?
All right. So the ready rector prices have been increased after a gap of 3 years.
Yeah.
We have to note that as well. The property prices have been stable across last 3 to 4 years, especially after pandemic. Okay. And at the same time, the disposable incomes have increased a lot. So we cannot say that the properties have always been, yes, they have been expensive because it's real asset, isn't it? It is expensive. I do understand to that, and a large part of that expense goes to the government. Let me tell you, in Mumbai, 1 square meter of construction cost 54,221 rupees to a developer, which goes to the urban local body, right? So if I say in a larger perspective, a 1.5 crore home is being sold, 53 lakh rupees out of that straight away goes to government in different forms. So government is largely a stakeholder in this, and if we can look where government can reduce the stamp duties and the premiums, we can look at the affordability quotient as well. In the meantime, renting does not yield because it's a long term investment. Real estate is not, I have to make you understand that real estate is not mutual funds. They are not equity. You can enter into equity market with a small amount of money, which is not the case in real estate.
That's true.
Because that's lifetime investment.
That's
so we cannot compare apples and oranges.
Sure, can't compare apples and oranges. But tell me one thing, Suresh. RBI has cut interest rates twice in a row now. Interest rates are expected to go down further. Do you think this is actually the right time to buy because EMI burdens will reduce going forward?
Yeah, the housing decision is never taken based on the rate of interest of the home loan. While it is certainly a factor, Buying a house decision is something independent of that. So the amount of EMI may slightly go down if they want to adjust it downwards, or the tenure can come down. So that can happen. But a house buying decision is never ever contingent on the loan, because see, we have to understand that as far as the home loan is concerned, it's anyway a concessional loan. I mean, for all the right reasons, it is anyway a concessional loan. So instead of, suppose it is 9%, it is 8.75, 8.5. That itself is not going to be major impetus for somebody to actually consider buying a home. So buying a home decision is an entirely independent decision. Okay, so one more additional point which I want to talk, about for first time home buyers, is that, see, today most of the people who are in a career are very much mobile and willing to consider relocating to other cities, other towns, even outside the country. So they will really have to take a call whether they really want to buy a home at this point in whatever locality they want to. Because I mean, we have seen actual cases of somebody buying a home in Mumbai, and they're getting a fantastic opportunity in, say, Bangalore, and they move to Bangalore. They are paying an EMI here, they are paying a rent in Bangalore. So I mean, we will have to really think about when exactly to buy a home. That is also a very, very important decision. So once the family has decided that, yeah, we are going to be there, at least the family is going to be here, and they are not going to move around, then buying a home makes a lot of sense.
One more question, an important one that I want to ask you. One of the biggest challenges that first-time buyers really face is managing the financial overlap. They may already be paying rent, and while they will be starting out their EMIs. Now, this transition period can be really stressful. So, how do they really prepare for this dual burden? And are there any smart ways to reduce the strain?
Yeah, I mean, you have rightly articulated that both the things together, if they are going to be there, it's going to be challenging. The only thing which somebody can do is, if they go for a home which is already built or very, very near completion, or they are going for a resale home, then that burden will not be coming on them. They don't have to pay the rent as well as the EMI. Otherwise, for the short term, if it's an under construction property, then for the short term, maybe 2, 3 years, 4 years, they may have to pay that. So that's a call the home buyer will have to take. So if they are really, really constrained as far as finances are concerned, the best way I would suggest is go for a home which is going to get completed in the next 2, 3 months or a few months, or it is already constructed and you can actually move in. So that's the only suggestion I can give.
So mostly, ready to move in apartment, or maybe just 2 to 3 months before the completion of the project. What are the real pros and cons of an under construction property or a ready to move in apartment? What should one really go for?
Well, just Suresh said that he prefers to advise to go towards ready to move in home. Well, I would say that comes with a cost. The very big question at the entry point is the affordability always for the new home buyers. Yeah. So I would rather say that getting entry into an under construction building is always going to be softer. I will not use the word cheaper, but softer than getting into the ready to move house. And why is that so? Because the GST component differs, right? If you enter into a ready to move in home, you have to pay 12% or more GST, whereas here it comes to 5 and more. So there's a huge component of taxation which will play a role. Of course, the ready to move in the ready to move in properties comes at a premium because they are ready to move in. That's right. True. So the entry cost becomes lesser when you go to under construction building. However, there is a kind of fear amongst the home buyers about whether the project will get delayed or not.
Yeah, that's one big concern.
Yes, but in last 6 years, if you see, after the introduction of RERA into the market, that transparency which home buyers were seeking is very much into the market, right? The developers will have to announce the date of possession, right? Without that, they cannot even sell the properties, and if they are failing to that particular date, there is a huge penalty on the developers, right? So the transparency factor has come in after the introduction of RERA. Under construction property, as I said, comes at a cheaper cost, and the thing is, you can plan your financial stability across while your house is getting built. So that's the best advantage of getting into the under construction property.
So go only for pre-approved projects, right?
Only CREDAI-MCHI always have said that we must book into RERA approved projects only.
Last couple of questions really, Suresh. One very quickly, how does one really manage the down payment burden? One may not want to deplete their emergency fund, but as you said, the down payment amount is quite hefty, right? So how does one really manage it?
Yeah, so the most important thing is these things cannot be a knee-jerk decision. So one has to very properly plan this thing. I mean, over the years, and then we will have to put aside the money required for the down payment. Lot of times it is also that the parents or other people also do chip in, but that's not the ideal thing which I'm really suggesting. So, the first thing which I would say is one has to take a calibrated view of when they want to buy a house and then work towards actually building up that 20-25%. So that then at an appropriate point, they'll be able to pay down that amount and then go for an EMI. And they will have to, even at that time, evaluate whether the EMI is affordable from their standpoint. So, there are no shortcuts here. You will have
Sure.
to plan properly and you will have to build up that corpus.
Okay, for a first-time buyer, Keval, last question to you. If somebody has to buy a house, say either in a metro city or a tier 2 or tier 3 city, what should one really go for, and what should that one checklist one should keep before making their first ever home purchase?
So, three pillars, always remember. The first is, where do you stand as an individual? What is your income? What is your income to debt ratio? Let me tell your viewers that your home loan debt must not go beyond 40% of your income ratio. If that is the case, I think we are waiting for some drastic kind of changes happening into our financial health. Number one. Number two, always have a saving component. Do not go for personal loans. Do not go for NBFCs who are going to give you 98% of your home loan prices as loan, because that is ultimately a debt trap which we are entering into. Three, maintain a CIBIL score. Maintain a CIBIL score of 750 plus, because that gives you an edge over assessing over the overwriters who are sitting in their offices evaluating your financial health before approving your home loans. And the fourth important thing is maintain a stability in your employment. A 2-year or more stable employment is much more necessary to make sure that the home loan approver gives an approval to your home loan.
All right, that's the word from the experts. Would like to thank you both gentlemen for joining in this afternoon. Look forward to more conversations in the future. Thank you. Thanks a lot for joining. Thanks, Keval, for
you
coming
very
down to
much.
the studio. Well, now that you're equipped with the handy checklist for buying your first home, we hope it brings you one step closer to turning your dream of home ownership into reality. And if you are looking to invest in real estate, just scan this code to explore top properties with 99acres.com. But that brings us to the end of this episode of Realty Returns. We'd love to hear from you. Share your feedback in the comments and let us know what topics you'd like us to cover next. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Thanks for watching.